Hey there, Jimmy Roberts for Renaissance Appraisal. Today I've got an interesting one. It's a question actually that was brought to us by one of our clients. Recently, this particular client had a real estate appraisal. Their home is located in a subdivision. Their lot is approximately 4 to 5 times larger than the other lots in the area or in its subdivision. And so the client wanted to know, why is it that he didn't receive some additional contributory value for his lot size? So we all were raised to believe that, land is king, right? The more land you have, the more bountiful everything is. Well, the reality is, in modern day society, the reality is this: if you're in an urban or suburban community, it's good to have a lot of land, but that's not really why you live in an urban or suburban community. If you wanted land, and that was the main reason you purchased a property, you probably live in a rural community where you can have acres and acres of land to yourself. If you're living in a tight-knit community, as in a subdivision, as in this gentleman, that's not really the case. But I'm going to show you an example of why, and something that we all see happen on a daily basis, but we never really understand why. And this particular story is actually something that happened to me. This is my story. It is the absolute truth, and I'm going to walk you through it right now to show you why there is not necessarily an increase in contributory value just because you have a larger lot in a subdivision. Alrighty, so here we go. So this magnificent drawing, I am getting better with these drawings every time I do them, I tell you, is a sample of the subdivision that my wife and I were actually going to build in. So here you go. Here you have the entrance. As you can see, there is another phase up here that was kind of still being developed. But when we were looking to build into this subdivision, there was approximately, 80 to 90% of it was completed. So there were only a few lots available in our phase, in this particular phase. They hadn't opened up the other phase. The other phase was up this way somewhere. So there was this one lot in particular though, and this lot was located right here. So if you imagine that most of these lots are to scale, with the exception of, say, this lot, our lot in particular, maybe this one and that one, they were all right about 0.13 acres. The houses in the subdivision ranged between like 1,800 and 2,200 square feet. So again, not really large properties, just average size properties, 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, 2-story properties for the most part. Average quality building materials, nothing major. We're not talking about mansions and stuff like that here. So here's what was interesting. Like I said, there are only a few lots available left in this subdivision. And this was the lot that the builder was actually really trying to get us to purchase. This lot, where the other ones were about 0.3 acres, this lot was probably, 0.6, 0.7 acres in size. As you can see, it took up basically the entire corner of the subdivision, and it was really cool because not only did it take up the corner of the subdivision, but right in this area and all around here were trees. So it was kind of a wooded lot as well. Now here's what the interesting part was. At the time that we were building, let's say the standard typical lot, 0.3 acres, was being sold for, $15,000. Let's just use that as an example. The builder the builder had actually listed this lot for like $45,000 because of its size. Because they said, oh, it's such, it's 5 times bigger than any of the other lots that we're dealing with here. So we're gonna charge 5 times more. But as I just told you, this subdivision was about 80 to 90% developed and no one had bought it. So by the time we came along, they had dropped the price, right? So they dropped the price down to a measly $20,000, a small premium based on what they're saying. You know, everybody understands that lot premium theory. So that's what they did. They gave us they had a lot premium of $20,000, and it was a premium lot again because it was so much bigger than any of the other lots. Now, in reality, so that's what they told us. Here's what the reality was, and I didn't really understand this until much later. The reality was they couldn't split this lot up due to the way the other lots were drawn. That's right. This was this lot here. Not all of it was buildable, so it may have been 0.7 acres in size, but only maybe 0.3 acres was actually buildable. There was it was water back this way, so it was kind of wet. This side over here had trees, as well as this over here, and somewhere about the way this was the entranceway, the curve of the street, it did not allow for a really good, easy entrance access onto the lot without crossing on the other people's lots. So, even though it was a bigger lot, there weren't really a lot of benefits, right? It just wasn't. But they were still offering it at a premium. Ultimately, we didn't buy it because you know, we just decided to build somewhere else. Fast forward a few years later, was this lot built upon, but I was actually appraising this house about two houses north of it. And I found it interesting that by the time I was appraising this house, you know, the subdivision had completely built out. Someone had purchased this neighboring parcel over here. And let me show you this neighboring parcel right here. And it was a school. It was a high school. And guess where they put the football field? Now, I don't know about you, where you live, but around here, football on Friday nights is real popular, especially for this particular school. It's a really well-known school. They've constantly produced a lot of Division I athletes that go on to play college football, and some of them even make it to the pros. So this was a really big powerhouse type school. So every Friday night that there was a home game, guess what the people in this house saw? They saw, you just picture all of those game lights outside, those big stadium lighting. That was shining right into their house every Friday night. Isn't that great? So while this lot was bigger, it was bigger, but there was no contributory value. It added, just the size alone did not add any additional value to this site. And that's the point that I wanted to bring up. Just because a site is bigger doesn't mean that it adds any additional value. In your real estate appraisals, the only time you're supposed to see an adjustment or any increases or decreases or anything are if they increase value or if they decrease value. You don't see those types of things, regardless of the variance, your appraiser really shouldn't be adjusting for it. Size alone is not a good reason to adjust. So I hope I hope in my roundabout way I was able to explain that, and I hope that was helpful for you. Thank you. See you soon.